Welcome back to our Conservation Talks. Today, we're going deep, like really deep, into something that's, well, kind of personal for me. How cultural heritage, like all these amazing things from the past, how they actually uh, fall apart over time. I
Yeah.
mean, think about it. Stuff that's been around for centuries, suddenly in danger because there's a little too much, I don't know, moisture in the air, or even just oxygen.
It's true. It's wild.
So I've been, reading up, got a whole stack of articles and research here, and I'm hoping you can like walk us through it. Not just the how things break down, but what we can actually do to protect them, for the future and all that.
Absolutely. It is a bit like detective work, unraveling those mysteries of decay, trying to find ways to slow it down, maybe even stop it completely.
Yeah.
But yeah, first, got to know what we're up against.
Right, right, makes sense. So before we get into the nitty gritty, can you like just give us the big picture? What do we even mean when we say deterioration of cultural heritage?
Sure. Basically, we're talking about any process, anything at all that makes an object like break down, its materials, how it's put together, you name it. Could be
Hmm.
color change, the texture, shape, even the chemicals inside it.
So it's not just like getting dusty or faded. It's like deep down changes, right? The kind
Yeah.
that can actually like weaken something, maybe even destroy it completely over time.
Exactly. And all these changes, they can be caused by tons of things, but we kind of group them into three big categories: chemical, biological, and physical deterioration.
Okay, I'm hooked already.
Yeah.
Let's start with chemical. What's happening at like the tiniest level, the molecules that causes this kind of damage?
So, chemical deterioration, it's like the actual molecules in the object. They start to change. They react with like whatever's around them, the environment, and well, they change. Imagine it like a slow, invisible dance, between the object and all the elements around it.
Okay, I like that. The molecular dance. So who are the worst dancers, the ones that really cause problems?
Water. You wouldn't believe it, but plain old water, it's a huge culprit. It can trigger this process called hydrolysis.
Hydrolysis. I'm not familiar with that one. Break it down for me.
Think of it like I don't know, a molecular breakup. These water molecules, they get into the object's material and they break the bonds holding it together. So over time you get weakening, softening, sometimes the whole thing just falls apart.
Wow, that's crazy. Never thought of water like that. So it's not just, a flood or a leak. It's like this sneaky attack at the smallest level.
Exactly. And the thing is, water's not the only one causing trouble. Oxygen, even oxygen, can be a big problem.
Wait, oxygen. I thought we needed that to, live. How can that hurt an object?
Well, sure, we need it, but it can also react with certain materials, and not in a good way. That's what we call oxidation. Like, metal rusting, that's oxidation, but it also messes with fabrics, paper, even the colors in paintings.
Oh, wow. So it's not just rust. It's like a whole category of damage, all from oxygen. And I bet things like, I don't know, light or pollution make it worse, right?
Absolutely. Like light, temperature, pollutants, they all speed up oxidation, so things get damaged faster.
Feels like everything's out to get these objects. But okay, let's move on to the next type. What about biological deterioration? What kind of, living things threaten cultural heritage?
The world is full of these tiny things, organisms, and they can find food and shelter in the craziest places. Museums, libraries, even archaeological digs, they're all fair game.
So like bugs, mice, mold, that kind of stuff.
Yep, you got it. And each one does its damage in its own way, but they can all really mess things up.
So how do they do it? Do they like eat the objects?
Sometimes, yeah, literally. Certain fungi, for example, they eat wood, paper, fabrics. They're basically consuming the object. Others, they might produce like acidic waste, and that can stain or weaken the material. Even algae, something that seems harmless, it can discolor things, damage the surface.
Algae. Never would have thought of that. You mentioned bugs and mice too. What kind of damage do they cause?
Insects can be bad news. Termites, silverfish, some of them, they love to eat cellulose, and that's a major part of wood and paper. They tunnel through stuff, weaken it, and leave behind all this, unsightly damage.
Yikes. I'm picturing like termites taking down a whole sculpture. Not good. What about mice?
Rodents, they're a problem too. They gnaw on stuff to keep their teeth short, and their droppings, their urine, it can stain and damage materials. Plus, they nest inside objects sometimes, so more damage. Plus, they bring in other pests like fleas.
So it's like a whole ecosystem of tiny threats all living inside these objects. Feels like a constant battle to keep them out. But hold on, before we get into how to fight them, let's talk about that last category, physical deterioration. What kind of forces are we talking about here?
Basically, anything from the outside that can cause damage. Could be a little bump or scrape or something huge, like a natural disaster.
So anything from a clumsy museum visitor to, like, an earthquake toppling ruins?
Exactly. But it's not always something dramatic. Sometimes it's just tiny forces acting over a really long time.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, think about a big painting, right? Gravity's always pulling on it. Over time, the canvas stretches, sags, and the paint cracks. Or temperature changes. A wooden object, it expands and contracts with humidity changes. So you get warping, cracking, and eventually the whole thing falls apart.
So even just the temperature and humidity changing, that can really mess things up over time. And I'm guessing moving these objects, handling them, that's got to be risky too.
Oh, absolutely. If you handle something wrong, especially if it's fragile, even a little bump can be a disaster.
Yeah.
And transporting them, it's always a risk. Vibrations, shocks, temperature changes, they can all cause damage.
Okay, this is fascinating, but also kind of scary. It sounds like there's a million ways these objects can get damaged.
True, there are challenges, but don't worry. It's not hopeless. We have a ton of ways to protect these things and keep them safe for the future.
Oh, good. That's a relief. So we've covered the three main ways things deteriorate: chemical, biological, and physical. Now I'm ready to hear about how we fight back.
So we spent some time, really getting into how things can fall apart, but the good news is we're not just sitting ducks here. Conservators, they've got a whole bunch of tricks up their sleeves, ways to protect and preserve these objects.
Yeah, that's what I want to hear about. What can we actually do? Where do we even start?
Well, I think prevention is always the best medicine, right? A lot of the best strategies are all about stopping damage before it even happens.
Makes sense, yeah. An ounce of prevention, all that.
Yeah.
But how do you actually prevent deterioration? It feels like there's danger everywhere.
True, the threats are kind of lurking around every corner, but we can control a lot of them. The biggest thing is creating the right environment, like a safe space for these objects.
So controlling the temperature, humidity, keeping the lights low, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Lots of materials, they're super sensitive to changes in temperature and humidity, Those changes make things expand and contract, and that leads to cracks, warping, all sorts of damage.
Gotcha. So it's all about keeping things stable.
Yep, consistency is key. Museums and places like that, they invest a lot in climate control, fancy systems to keep the temperature and humidity just right.
Yeah, I can see how that'd be crucial, especially for like paintings or
Yeah.
delicate fabrics. What about light, though? You can't just keep everything in the dark, right?
Of course not. We need light to see and appreciate these things, but yeah, it can be a problem. Certain kinds of light, especially UV rays, they can fade things, discolor them, even weaken the materials.
So it's like a balancing act. Enough light to see, but not so much that it causes damage.
Yep. That's why museums use those special filters on windows and display cases to block out the harmful UV rays. They're also really careful about how strong the lights are and how long they're on, especially for sensitive pieces.
Okay, so that's prevention, smart. But what about when the damage is already done? What can you do then?
That's where conservation treatment comes in. And this is where it gets really interesting. It's a whole specialized field. It's like a mix of science, art history, even ethics, all rolled into one. Conservators use all sorts of techniques to fix specific types of damage and make sure the object stays, as close to the original as possible.
Wow, okay. Can you give us some examples? What kind of techniques are we talking about?
It really depends on the damage and what the object's made of, but some common ones are cleaning, consolidation, and repair.
Okay, cleaning. That seems simple enough. How do you clean a super delicate object without messing it up even more?
Well, it's trickier than it sounds. You have to think about the materials, the condition, everything. We use special tools, really gentle cleaning agents to get rid of dirt, grime, all that surface stuff.
So it's not like just grabbing some soap and water, huh?
No way. The wrong cleaner or technique, it can ruin an object for good. That's why you need a trained conservator, someone who knows what they're doing.
Makes sense. What about that other one? Consolidation. What's that all about?
Consolidation, it's for when the material is already weak, fragile. Basically, you apply this special stuff, a consolidant. It's like a super strong glue or resin to kind of hold it together.
So you're giving it some extra support, basically.
Exactly. The consolidant soaks into the object and binds everything together so it doesn't get any worse.
Cool. And then there's repair, right?
Yeah.
How do you actually go about fixing something that's broken?
Repairing, that can be all sorts of things, depends on the damage. Sometimes you use adhesives to put broken pieces back together or fill in gaps with a special putty. You might even have to build a whole new support structure if something's really weak.
Wow. Sounds like a mix of art and science for sure.
It really is. You need technical skills, an
Yeah.
artistic eye, and you got to think about the ethics of it all too.
Ethics. Huh. That's interesting. Are there like limits to what you can do? What if something's just too far gone to be fixed?
Well, yeah, sometimes the damage is just too much. You can't really bring it back to how it was. But even then, you can usually at least stabilize it, stop it from getting worse. And sometimes the damage, it becomes part of the story, you know. It adds to the history of the object.
I like that. It's a reminder that these things, they've been through a lot. Their imperfections are part of what makes them special. Speaking of special, are there any like new high-tech ways you're approaching conservation these days?
Oh, absolutely. Conservation's always evolving, new technologies popping up all the time. Like, we use a lot of non-invasive imaging now to check out what's going on inside an object without having to, actually touch it.
Non-invasive imaging. Sounds
Yeah.
fancy. Tell me more.
So things like X-rays, CT scans, infrared photography, that kind of stuff. We can see right through the object, find stuff you'd never see with just your eyes.
Whoa, it's like X-ray vision for art. What can you see with these things?
All sorts of stuff. Hidden cracks, how it was built, old repairs, even sketches underneath the paint. It helps us understand the object's history, how it was made, what condition it's in. Super useful.
That's wild. It's like looking back on that. Anything else you're excited about tech-wise?
Oh yeah, there's nanotechnology. That's a big one. Scientists are making these tiny, tiny materials, nanomaterials, that can clean, consolidate, even repair things at like a microscopic level.
Nanotechnology for art. That's straight out of the future.
It is. It could totally change how we do conservation.
I can't wait to see what they come up with next. This whole conversation has been eye-opening, you know? I never realized how much science and skill goes into preserving this stuff. It's amazing.
It is pretty cool, right? It's a whole mix of disciplines, and it's always changing. But at the end of the day, it's all about protecting these objects, making sure people can enjoy them for years to come.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground today, from how things break down to all the amazing ways you're fighting back. But before we wrap up, I'm curious about the ethical side of things. When you're deciding how to treat these objects, what kind of ethical questions do you have to grapple with?
That's a really important question. Conservation ethics, they're complex, always evolving. We could probably do a whole episode just on that.
Maybe we should. But for now, just give us a taste. What are some of the big dilemmas that conservators face?
Well, one of the core ideas in conservation is that this idea of minimal intervention. You want to do as little as possible to the object, only step in if you absolutely have to save it.
Yeah, that makes sense, but it also sounds kind of tricky. How do you decide when it's, like, really necessary?
It's tough. You got to weigh a lot of things.
Yeah.
The object's condition, its history, how important it is, and then, what are the risks of doing something versus not doing anything?
So it's not just about keeping it from falling apart. It's also about respecting, like, where it came from, what it means.
Exactly. Every time you do something to an object, it leaves a mark, right? And you don't want to change it in a way that, I don't know, makes it less authentic or less historically valuable.
Yeah, that makes sense. What else do you have to think about?
Another big thing is reversibility. If we can, we try to use treatments that can be undone later, just in case. That way, if there's some new amazing technique or material in the future, they have the option to, go back and try something different.
So you're always thinking ahead, trying to make sure you don't close any doors for the future.
Exactly. It's about respecting the object long term, making sure people can still learn from it and enjoy it, generations from now.
Wow, that's a cool way to think about it. It's like you're not just taking care of the object, you're taking care of its whole future.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. We're kind of like caretakers,
Hmm.
responsible for making sure these things survive.
This has been amazing, really. I never knew how much thought and, artistry goes into art conservation.
It's been fun talking to you about it. I hope you keep learning about this stuff. It's important. And, spread the word. Help protect these amazing objects.
I will, definitely. And to everyone listening, I hope this deep dive has given you a little peek into this whole world of, decay and preservation and just how much work goes into keeping these treasures safe.
Thanks for joining us on Art Conservation Talks, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of art.